people.
Bullshit.
Reminds them that they fucking experienced, and ironically, exactly what I explained to people yesterday about my own personal experiences with like Islamophobia. When people just like say you're a fucking terrorist and no one actually speaks out and no one actually says, hey, that sounds kind of fucking weird that you're calling a prominent Muslim critic of Israel an anti-Semitic terrorist. Doesn't that sound a little racialized? Like, it's a little weird. No one does that because you're of the mindset that it's like doubly fucked up, as I've explained time and time again, that you know that not only is that person engaging in Islamophobia, but you have to make that mental calculation on whether or not you can even address it, because you know the broader population also probably agrees with him. And you don't know if you want to go through that stress of realizing that the people that you like or the people that you admire, the people that you've actually appreciated for the longest fucking time, also kind of are, you know, racist in the same way. This is important to address because I'm saying that like that is a personal point of marginalization that I've experienced over the course of the last fucking 2 years, especially so. And that is the only way that I can compare it to the ways in which I think Black content creators on TikTok and elsewhere are looking at it from the outside and thinking, oh, it's the same thing that's happening. Where I'm a white guy and I'm refusing to listen to Black chatters and community members that have been in here. Okay? It's important to have this conversation. Okay? It's important to have this conversation, especially because, yes, white chatters in this community also need to hear this. Okay? Because, once again, you're anonymous. You don't have the 12-year background that I have. Where people that are tuning in kind of have a little bit more charitability towards what I'm saying because they know what my perspective is. They don't know what your perspective is. They just see you as a random dot in the chat. And if they hear it over and over again, if Black chatters come in here and they see a bunch of other chatters over and over again being like, your concerns are invalid, you're just crashing out, you're just doing drama, you're being sensitive, they think, okay, this is a community comprised entirely of out-of-touch white people who don't want to fucking listen to demands and concerns being made by Black and brown people. There's a limit to it, is what I'm saying. Okay, there is validity to those concerns. It's true. Okay, it's true. We got to be a little bit more.
It's 2008 all over again for gamers. If you didn't know, one of the biggest digital economies just crashed almost 50% to $3 billion from an all-time high of about $6 billion. This is all because of a recent patch. You can see this line here just in free fall. We still don't know how bad the damage is. Penguin Zero 20 hours ago saying $1 billion in market cap was lost. 9 hours ago, Atrioc made a video that says $2 billion is lost. And I'm making a video where $3 billion has been wiped out. So it's anyone's guess as to where it goes from here. But what we're talking about today is Counter-Strike 2, a popular shooter game where you have in-game cosmetics which have different levels of rarity. We covered all of this in a long 3-part series on my main channel where we exposed the underage gambling problem in Counter-Strike, but suffice to say, because of the in-game rarity, people have taken to speculating on the value of these items, and some of the rarest, knives and gloves, were going for tens of thousands of dollars. But that all changed basically a couple days ago when Counter-Strike issued an update where you could basically trade up for knives. Here you can see it right here. You could trade 5 of your covert items for 1 regular knife or 1 regular gloves items, completely changing the entire sort of digital economy they had going on, the supply and demand of everything. And because of that, the entire economy crashed, but it also kind of had a reorganizing effect. Some items are down, let's see here, 96% in the last 24 hours. Some items are up 3,000%, because if you had those items you could trade up for a knife, all of a sudden those are more valuable because you can use those more worthless items. Now this primarily affected the whales the most, the collectors, the people who had thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in these digital skins. You can see here this guy has $60,000 in virtual currency basically, and he's about to recalculate, you know, what it is after the update, and you're gonna see how devastating this update was for some people.
$58K, okay? Now we make a shake. Let's see, guys. 58K to what? 58K. Ah!
Oh my God. Yeah, he lost basically $40,000 in the space of one CS2 update, which ironically was called a small update. Now, look, there's a lot you can say here. I think one of the biggest things is that obviously this illustrates the weakness of these speculative markets where someone controls the supply of your collectible item. This is always the biggest risk as a collector of any kind of item with no real value, maybe speculative value. You can think like Pokemon cards, other collectibles like that. At the end of the day, you can always have the parent company just release a bunch more of their rarer items and change the supply for everyone. So it's really not a good idea to probably put a ton of your net worth into these items. I also want to say specifically with Counter-Strike, one of the things we highlighted in our series is just how little the company listens to its community. I mean, let's be clear. Valve is good at some things. Steam is, for the most part, a really good product. The problem is they don't listen to their community hardly at all. They're sort of known for not caring what their community thinks once they make a decision. This even goes to the highest level of Valve. In the third video in my 3-part series, I showed a clip of Gabe talking about how much power people at Valve have over these giant economies and how really no one's looking over their shoulder.
People at Valve have to get used to working without a safety net. There's nothing between you and a customer. You can do something. You can come in that morning, and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you have a million customers, right? And they're all emailing you. They're all me emailing you. And you probably should fix it, right? But nobody's looking over your shoulder. And for some people, that's liberating. For some people, it's terrifying.
So yeah, this is an open secret of Valve's style of operating. And the other thing worth noting is that it's not universally hated as an update. Some of the players who like to actually play the game, some of them are now happy that knives have fallen in price, understandably so. Maybe they were priced out of the market. And of course, people are also happy if you have a bunch of items that people can just trade up. But I think it illustrates that this market was always and is always going to be a speculative one, where people need to realize that these items have no real value other than what someone else will pay for it. And so if you're buying these skins for any other reason than you just enjoy how it looks, you're gonna be at risk of Valve basically rugging you. They completely control the supply of this market, and there's nothing you can really do about it. If you're gonna be one of these collectors who's hoping that their portfolio of knives goes up in value, you can just have all of it kind of disappear one day. And I think this is pretty well illustrated by one of actually our interviews on the CS2 Gamba videos. Arrow, he was basically out in the middle of nowhere when this update dropped, and you can see sort of his reaction kind of sums up how big of a deal this whole thing is. What happened?
The announcement that you can trade reds for knives now.
You can trade up red?
Oh, brother, you need to run home. Brother, reds are
Bro,
going.
I haven't had internet for like 6 hours.
Brother,
or 7.
reds are going for 16 times the amount.
There's no way this is true.
Brother, I'm not gonna.
I actually getting so I can't even open up Steam.
It literally is gaming's 2008. I mean, people are all calling each other saying, check your inventory, you gotta sell, you gotta buy. Some people are finding out that they've lost half of their value overnight. And all of this reminds me of one of the early stories of how crypto started. Vitalik Buterin, who is the founder of Ethereum, of course, part of his origin story was that World of Warcraft changed some of the rules and his warlock character got less powerful, and it was such a nightmare moment for him. He realized how devastating it is to have centralized characters in charge of your, video game or whatever. Now, I have seen people say, oh, that's why crypto would have fixed this, like crypto is the answer. Kind of not though too, because a lot of the crypto games that I've seen come out, the people in charge of the rarity items and stuff can still have minting authority over new updates, new changes. NFT projects, you're always risking that they're going to release a new collection. So I've seen that argument that, oh, crypto would have solved this. I don't really think so. Actually, ironically, I think this is just what happens when a speculative market gets huge and ultimately the guys in charge decide to change the rules all of a sudden. I mean, that's just always going to be a risk you have. So devastating for the market. I mean, literally down 49% from the all-time high, billions of dollars wiped out. And I feel bad for the people who had a bunch, invested in this. I do want to say, as silly as this whole story is, or it seems to be with, just this online economy, some people were seriously affected by this to the point where reportedly, and this is unconfirmed, but that some people even, jumped off buildings because of this. In China, they actually have one of the biggest skin trading markets, with the marketplace buff.gg being absolutely huge, and people all of a sudden seeing their balances basically fall in half or more overnight. So that's horrifying. I hope that's not true, but the reports we were seeing are very concerning. And I just wanted to mention it because, at the
Yeah, this is what you do when you think gambling is going to be your fucking life's money, you fucking idiot.
heart of all of
I don't mean to shame you. I like that you took the shot. But also all your money's gone, isn't it, you fucking idiot? Anybody with a brain wouldn't have done this. I didn't do it. I wasn't even tempted to do it. I want to sell things that people want. That I have that I don't want.
of these kind of speculative bubbles, there is a real human cost to people who lose a bunch of money overnight. I do want to say, I don't know how, they're going to recover from this, Valve, I mean, because really what this crash represents, it's more than just a supply shock. It's also a big reminder to all of their customers that at the end of the day, overnight, the marketplace can fundamentally change. And I don't think that realization in people's heads are going to change anytime soon. I also want to say specifically for the trade up items, it's my understanding that there's a 7-day trade hold when you first get an item on Steam. And so what's interesting about that is that there are all these new knives and gloves flooding the marketplace right now that cannot be traded. And in 7 days, they will be tradable. So it's possible that the market, unbelievably, may even go down from here. Although I'm certainly not price forecasting. I'm just saying if you want to get your items on something like Buff or a third-party marketplace where you can actually sell it for cash, if you're trying to race to get ahead of the arbitrage here, I don't think we're going to see for a while basically how this actually shakes out. And that's kind of what's so unbelievable about all of this. So yeah, that's basically it. I wanted to cover this since I had an insight into how Valve operates from my gambling videos, where I saw their indifference to sort of customer feedback, but also it's just a huge market move in general for gamers. And yeah, I think it's gonna be remembered honestly as one of the biggest moments ever in the history of Valve updates.
Bethesda never changes. Actually, they did, but not in a good way. We've just seen the latest installment of Fallout, Bethesda's annual live stream to celebrate everything Fallout. By everything, I mean nothing. Last year's showcase introduced solely new microtransactions to the MMO, Fallout 76, and this year heard no better. Despite hype around the Fallout 2 Vegas remaster, speculation around the Fallout 3 remake, and hope of a Fallout 5 update, Bethesda did what Bethesda do. After hyping Fallout New Vegas' 15th anniversary and inviting Obsidian to the showcase, sparking remaster rumors, they just repackaged the old game, added a few extras, and hiked the price. Instead of a Fallout 3 remake, they announced the Fallout 4 Anniversary Edition, which is the same 10-year-old game, just with a few fan-made mods baked in, following the same blueprint as the Skyrim Anniversary Edition before it. Bethesda are rolling out their old back catalog, adding nothing new themselves and charging full price. Not one new quest, new dialogue, or anything from the studio. Just fan-made work to help line their pockets, leaning on their old glory days and nostalgia to take advantage of their fanbase. But does this not sum up modern Bethesda? They used to disguise cash grabs as fan appreciation. Now they don't even bother hiding it. 10 years marks the anniversary since Fallout 4's release, but it also marks a decade since the studio released anything of any note. In this video, I'm going to cover what made Bethesda great, when it changed, and where we are today. But without dragging on, let's get into it. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. So let's go back to 2002. At this point, Bethesda moved from procedurally generated worlds like Arena and Daggerfall to handcrafted RPGs. The first game to begin Bethesda's incredible run was The Elder Scrolls III: Morrowind. Based in the province of Vardenfell, this game was a smash hit. It offered an unmatched sense of freedom, mystery, and world building that few RPGs have ever replicated. Combined with its deep lore, unique art direction, and open-ended character progression, Morrowind became a timeless example of immersive, player-driven storytelling in gaming. This game put Bethesda on the map, and it sold 4 million copies and received stellar reviews. The game had a solid foundation, but was rough around the edges, visually dated, and missing voice acting. Just 4 years later, Bethesda followed this with The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. Although it removed a lot of deep RPG elements in exchange for player accessibility, it still improved on everything Morrowind had brought. The graphics were better, voice acting was added, the world was bigger, and it captured gaming's attention. It received incredible scores, won 2006's Game of the Year, and sold 9.5 million
That
copies.
shit from 19 years
Bethesda
ago.
At this point was a well-known brand, providing some of the best open world games ever. After acquiring the Fallout franchise, Bethesda released Fallout 3 in 2008, which followed the same formula as Oblivion, but changed location and lore. It sold 12.4 million copies and received universal praise. Once again, nominated for Game of the Year. Bethesda proved that they could craft great RPGs beyond the Elder Scrolls, bringing the formula to new worlds like Fallout with its gun-based combat, showing the versatility. In 2010, Obsidian kept the run going with Fallout New Vegas, which was Fallout 3 improved in many ways, adding to Bethesda's reign. And then in 2011 came Skyrim, Bethesda's magnum opus. Selling over 16 million copies, it's widely regarded as one of the greatest games of all time. The RPG mechanics were streamlined for accessibility, making it even more user-friendly than Fallout 3 or Oblivion. With improved graphics, a larger world, stunning dungeon design, and an unforgettable atmosphere, Skyrim marked a major leap forward. The moment Bethesda truly hit its peak. Finally, 4 years later, Fallout 4 arrived, and despite it once again removing more RPG aspects, it improved graphically, felt more modern, and despite dividing fan opinion, was Bethesda's most successful launch title to date. So within a 13-year window, the studio managed to release 5 incredible games. Each game built on the last, better graphics, bigger worlds, more content, but the formula stayed the same. Handcrafted open world, filled with quests and dungeons to explore. Every release was a technological step forward, yet true to the studio's identity. Whether you prefer Morrowind's deeper RPG systems or Oblivion's writing, Bethesda remained consistent. Their games were offline, open-world adventures where curiosity was always rewarded. Every location felt unique and deliberately crafted. Bethesda weren't just good at making these types of games, they were the best. They were literally the studio setting the standard for the industry, the ones to emulate. That 13-year run that I just described has never been matched to date, and they acquired not just critical acclaim, but fan respect too. They were known as the industry darlings, not because of their great games, but because of their relationship with their fans. They offered modding tools and supported their creators. Their games gave more than the industry standard. They paid homage to their followers. In 2015, Bethesda were adored by almost every gaming fan and were on top of the world. They got it. They knew what gamers wanted. They were one of us. Until 2017 came around, where Bethesda introduced a paid mod system called the Creation Club in Fallout 4. This new entry meant that mods that before would be free would now have a fee attached, and Bethesda would take a large cut of nearly 10%. For many, this was the first red flag. Despite their unwavering love for their mod creators, suddenly they were cashing in on them. And then in 2018, Fallout 76 came out. Not only did this game represent a huge shift in the whole blueprint of offline open-world RPGs, with them moving to an MMO model, but it also came unfinished. Fallout 76 launched as a buggy, broken mess with disappearing characters, glitched quests, and constant crashes. Beyond the disastrous game itself, Bethesda angered fans with shady business practices. They refused to refund players who were upset at the game's poor state. The $300 Power Armor Edition promised a high-quality canvas bag but shipped a cheap nylon one, while the $80 Nuka-Cola Dark collectible came as a plastic shell instead of the advertised custom bottle. Refunds were mishandled, replacement systems leaked personal data, and microtransactions dominated the game, making it feel like a cash grab. Fallout 76 marked a sharp shift in Bethesda's past reputation, prioritizing revenue over quality or player trust. Their customer service team treated fans dreadfully, taking no accountability for their false advertisements. I've done a video on this game in more detail here, but the main point is, this was a major change. Bethesda has now stopped acting like the industry darlings, the small studio who made games out of love, and were copying the blueprints of the AAA giants who only focus on revenue. After this game's release, Bethesda's reputation was bleeding, but it would only get worse as in 2020, Microsoft announced that they would acquire Bethesda for $7.5 billion. After this, Starfield would be released. I've made many videos explaining why Starfield failed, but the short summary is that their core fans didn't want this game. Starfield ultimately disappointed because it abandoned the studio's strongest feature, handcrafted open worlds in favor of bland procedurally generated planets, repetitive copy-paste dungeons and empty exploration. Weak writing, unimaginative lore, lifeless quests, and shallow role-playing compounded the problem, leaving little reason to keep playing after the first 20 hours. As a result of this disappointment, fans went online to vent frustration and were met with resistance from the studio. On Steam, the studio responded to fans explaining that they were playing it wrong and that the game was actually great. They went from play your way to you're playing it wrong. Lead writer Emil Pagliarulo came out shortly afterwards declaring Starfield was their best game, and others have said similar. Fan feedback was no longer valued. In fact, it was ignored. Following this, Bethesda released the Shattered Space DLC, which contained only 5 hours of content.
He sounds like whining to me, and I'm going to get off him. I'm going to unsub. Don't recommend this channel
It's
anymore.
2008 all over.
Ugh, really? It's over. Round lost. Ugh. Well, let's hope Mercy will save the day. You guys learn to get kills.
over again for
Bethesda. Bethesda never changes. Actually, they did.
Hi muckers, I thought I would just put this at the start of the video, but a lot of you guys have been subscribing to my YouTube channel recently, which I really appreciate. I know a lot of people watch and they don't subscribe. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing, because I would really appreciate it. And anyway, on with the video. Okay, everyone, let's talk about what Taylor Lorenz has just done. So she has interviewed Dan Clancy, the CEO of Twitch, at TwitchCon, and basically is asking him, are Twitch protecting these female creators? Is Twitch hostile towards female creators? And this is so important to be pushing the management, specifically the CEO of Twitch, on, considering that the handlement of the Emmy Rue situation at the meet and greet was absolutely horrible. It was horrible, the preparation before it, where the security was not locked in. During it, security didn't respond. And then after it, they're allowing him to just walk free, and their response on social media being completely contradictory towards what Emmy Rue told us actually happened. Terrible all around. Terrible all around, okay? So anyways, we are going to get to this Taylor Lorenz interview with Dan Clancy, basically about his relations towards protecting the women creators on the platform. But before that, let's get some atmosphere in here. Come on. We'll get some atmosphere in here. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at that. Talk about atmosphere. Talk about atmosphere. I'm giving you quality.
Equality. Equality. Oh.
Giving you an experience. It's amazing, right? You've never seen such high production. You've never seen such high production like this. Yeah, literally, Alexa Nicholas. How do you make your rent, Adam? Oh my god! Anyways, now that we've got the atmosphere, and hopefully my fire alarm doesn't go off, let's get to Taylor Lorenz interviewing Dan Clancy, the CEO of Twitch.
A lot of their rise has come because they just literally will create hundreds of clips from a single stream, often posting them while the stream is still live.
Oh, we get a little bit.
Live streaming becomes an increasingly dominant form of entertainment. Twitch is at a crossroads. On one hand, the platform is an undeniable powerhouse in the live streaming space. It has evolved from a primarily desktop streaming platform to a mobile streaming app that facilitates hours of just chatting and IRL streams. Soon, you'll even be able to stream to Twitch via Meta's AI Ray-Ban smart glasses. But not everything is rosy. The platform has struggled to effectively monetize, monthly usage has fallen off since 2020 peaks, and it's facing increased competition from TikTok Live and YouTube. The culture on Twitch has also been called toxic and hostile for women creators.
Yep.
Dan Clancy is the CEO of Twitch, and it's his job to navigate these choppy waters. He sat down with me this weekend at TwitchCon to discuss how Twitch is evolving, its broader role in the creator economy over the next 10 years, increased competition from Hollywood, and how he thinks about balancing streamers' creative freedom with safety concerns. Here's our interview. Dan, thanks so much for chatting with me.
Great to meet you.
Also, huge thank you to Stream Elements for setting all of this up.
Oh, nice.
I could not get it set up myself. First of all, I want to ask you, how would you define Twitch's mission in 2025?
I think our mission in 2025 is more.
You want the Mercy? Okay, I'll take the Mora. That's okay. Multiple.
Relevant than ever, and it fits, as we.
Does he have to be wearing that fuck-ass hat?
Yes, he does. Everybody who wants to look like him does have to wear that fuck-ass hat. I don't know why. It's like they got dressed for the occasion of faking it.
Is that important for the fit?
It is.
The Twitch shirt,
it is.
With the cowboy hat.
I would say.
Adam looks like he's in a burning house. What do you mean? It looks like we're in a beautiful concert. He always has some fuck-ass hat on.
Talk about
some
creating
fuck-ass hat.
Who are streamers in the communities they create. I often talk about how, in many ways, social media has become antisocial. Sitting and swiping in your phone doesn't connect you to people, and I think that's one reason why we've seen this enthusiasm around Twitch, because I think people more than ever are looking for authentic connections with both other people, but also with people, in this creator economy. There's a distance when you're just watching something on, a short-form platform, and there's an authenticity that you can't hide when you stream, and so I think it's really going to the roots of it has made the foundation of Twitch, which is really cool.
I feel like every app has been entering the live streaming space lately. I mean, obviously TikTok's been investing so heavily in live. We've got Substack Live now, even. We're also seeing a lot more multi-streaming, right? Which is sort of becoming more of a thing. How do you think Twitch differentiates itself in this increasingly crowded live streaming?
No, that's all. Everybody's building a lot.
Guys, I'm curious. How many of you watch IRL streams? The coffee gets great. How many of you watch IRL streams? Because for me, I can't watch IRL streams without panicking. I just immediately panic that I'm gonna witness something bad happen. Whenever I was at VidCon and I was with Average Harry, and he was IRL streaming, anytime I hung out with him, he was streaming where we were and walking around, and even that scared me. I don't know if I could do it. I really don't know if I could do it.
live streaming, it's actually been happening for quite some time. You know, there's a period when YouTube, Google, Facebook, and Microsoft were all coming after Twitch. They were all doing big contracts to recruit our top streamers, and Twitch stayed on top. Mixer shut down. Facebook just sunsetted their live streaming.
Yeah.
Facebook Live is still a valuable part of YouTube, and as you said,
Not
TikTok is
Facebook
really
Live.
But I think the reason we were able to stay where we were during that period is the same reason why now I actually think it's Twitch for us. Twitch is a community-centric live streaming app, and we focus on live streaming. And it's really important that the way we get a sense of community is that shared experience together, and that requires people to pull up and share and stay for a while. If you're watching live streaming on one of the other platforms, like TikTok, you watch it, you've been programmed that you get a little bored. Your mind just says, let's see what's next, right? If I'm watching a YouTube video live and you get a little bored, your eye glance to the bottom right. My joking once with T-Pain, and I said, you know who your big competition is on YouTube? It's this guy named T-Pain. He makes really good VODs, and someone's watching you live and your eye just drifts. Because again, you're programmed whenever you're watching a video, when you're watching VODs, to look to the bottom right. And so then you don't get that sense of community. And so I always say if
Oh my god, wait. I have never realized how much Twitch is optimized for you to focus on the creator at hand. Whoa, I truly have not thought about that before. TikTok, it literally is just like a scroll. Sometimes it will even auto-scroll for you. YouTube as well. Wow, I've never thought about that.
people are just every now and then dabbling, it's like, you just put up stuff. But if you want to build a community that like is really there for you, then do it on Twitch. And once you build a community, it's yours. Because the affinity on Twitch is with the creator, not the platform. If I asked you who are your top 5 TikTok creators, you have a blaze to look over your face, because you wouldn't be able to think of 5 that are your top 5. If you ask any Twitch fan, who are your top 5 Twitch streamers, they'll give you the answer right away, because the affinity is with the
That's a good
So we
point.
feel really good, and I think other people being in this space inspires more people to live streaming, both from a viewer side and from a creator side. So I think it just helps.
However, that's dangerous because then these people have incredible parasocial relationships with these women creators and want to fucking harass them and think that they like them or know them or care about them.
I mean, part of what you're talking
Yes, this is a great feature, but it also breeds danger.
TikTok and YouTube, right, is the discovery aspect. And those platforms have succeeded so successfully in discovery. What are you doing from a Twitch standpoint in terms of boosting discovery? Are you doing more algorithmic recommendations? Like, what are you doing to ensure that YouTubers can find your audience and build that community?
Yeah, so part of it is so many platforms, they just look at themselves when they view the world, and it just makes no sense. You need to think of yourself in the broader ecosystem, and don't just stare at yourself. And everybody wants to know, everybody
Hear that,
wants
Sat Johnson?
That's not what people want. So we absolutely are focusing on things for discovery on our app. But the difference you're talking about is more a difference in short form versus long form. And short form content, if you're on TikTok, you might see 2,000 creators in a week. On YouTube, you might see 500. On Twitch, you might see 10. And so the thing that creates the community on Twitch, the fact that you stay on the live stream in a long form experience, is the thing that makes discovery hard. So we absolutely are investing in helping people create clips, but we're very clear we don't want to, be a short form content. We are a live platform. That's why you get community. So we're investing for our platform, but a big part is also getting people to take their content from cool stuff that happens on Twitch, post it on other platforms, because you want your content to find your audience. And that's no different if you create a podcast, right? And you distribute your podcast through various different platforms, but then you create shorts that you'll put on
The
TikTok.
correlation between Twitch and parasocial. I would argue that Twitch breeds the most parasocial out of any social media, if you think about it. Because if I think about it, I could list the people that I know on Twitch, and I could list the people that I watch on a daily basis on Twitch, but I probably couldn't list who I watch on a daily basis on TikTok. I don't think there's any creator that I actually explicitly open TikTok to watch. If their video shows up, then great. I like you. The Dream SMP era was rough. When I'm, obviously because I know all of them now, when I talk to them about the era of them all streaming at the same time, and there's like 20 of them and they're all competing side by side, it's crazy. And I don't know how much y'all know, but these bitches be telling me it was competitive. And obviously they're all pretending to be friends, but they're obviously fighting for viewers. I love catching up on the lore from the actual people when I didn't know anything about it. I almost wish that I watched the Dream SMP thing, so now whenever they tell me about it IRL, like I know what they're referring to, but I can always catch up.
Because that's how you are finding your audience, not just new viewers, but it's also how you stay top of mind with your existing viewers.
You talked about the kind of the unique bond that people have, and I've seen it so much firsthand of like this very deep parasocial bond, I would say, with Twitch streamers. Really specifically, I think that reaches a level that doesn't even happen on platforms like YouTube and others. Obviously, we saw one Twitch streamer yesterday, Amaru, get assaulted.
Okay. I really am interested to see how he addresses this.
By a male fan, and a lot of streamers, especially female streamers, have talked about the danger that they feel from these sort of toxic, I think, parasocial kind of places. What are you guys doing to prioritize it? Because I know also a bunch of content creators said that they were too scared to come to content here, just in case something like what happened yesterday would happen.
Yeah.
I'm so glad she brought up that point. Creators didn't want to come because of what they saw did happen yesterday.
The safety of our creators is top priority. The challenge we face is a challenge in today's society. It's not limited to Twitch. It extends throughout our society. I do think that when you're live streaming, in many ways, since you control your community and you can ban people, you can, make it so that those people that you don't want engaging with you and participating with you are, and I...
That's bullshit. He was specifically asked, like, how do you stop these things happening? And he basically just passed off all responsibility to the creator. He literally just put it all on the creator. He said, well, as a creator, you can ban these people from your community. It's not that easy. It's not that easy. If someone wants to find you, they will. I can't believe this is his response to it. And also, the opening of safety is our priority. I don't believe that. But this is crazy. You can select who can find you. That's not true.
They use other short form content and people say all sorts of stuff. Well, I can't stop that. But when I live stream, it basically don't bother me. Now, what happened yesterday obviously was something that we care deeply about during this environment. We're looking very closely at everything that happened there, and I care deeply about Emmy. She's a friend of mine, and so I want to see how we can support her through that. But this is just something we have to keep working on it as everyone identifies our tools in terms of trust and safety as the leaders in the industry about helping creators. But that means there's always more work to be done. But that's what we do.
Sammy had posted earlier today that I guess this ban was allowed to cross multiple barriers at Twitch top.
Wow. I'm so happy Taylor is pushing on this. I'm really happy Taylor is pushing on this.
Why should I guess streamers trust Twitch to see some favorites for content? I feel like simultaneously there's been such a secure event. So hopefully even like journalists have struggled, it is very secure. But, here's this man that just walks up and is somehow able to bypass all these things. So why should they trust the platform when slip-ups or, issues like this have happened?
Right, well, I mean...
Sorry, that is a great fucking question. The fact that you put it to Twitch CEO's face, why should we protect you if these things can still happen?
As you know, I think we towards some of what we do in terms of security. The reality is, even as you do a lot in terms of security in today's world, there are challenges that can present themselves, especially when someone is putting themselves out there, right? And so, we try to work very closely with each.
When he says putting themselves out there, is he referring to the man or is he referring to Emmy? Because if he's referring to Emmy there, he literally is almost blaming Emmy for this happening. This is about Emmy. He's literally blaming Emmy, by the way. He said when you put yourself out there, your event exists because of people like her.
Each creator about what they want to do and what works for them. So I don't want to get into any, specifics or details, but part of that is working with creators and, trying to find it. Right now, we're definitely, ramping it up to make sure creators know that we have the resources there to help them figure out what's right for them.
We've also seen this.
Well, I don't know if that's true because Emmy has literally spoken about the fact that they didn't do anything and it was her manager having to push them to do things and that he walked free after. So I see that as bullshit.
Record assault on free speech by the Trump administration and efforts to increasingly target online speech, obviously targeting platforms like yours. What are you doing to protect freedom of expression on the internet?
The good news is so far, I think we already were in a slightly different place. We have a set of community guidelines that focus not on what you say, but how you say it. Okay. And we're very serious about trying to figure out how to apply those consistently across. And so far, we have not had any challenges in terms of the areas you're talking about. I think that's in part because, we've always been sort of balanced in terms of that. And I think there's something about live that makes it, less prone to some of the challenges that happen on other platforms.
They tried to, for some reason, involve you guys in the Charlie Kirk stuff, wanted to haul you in front of Congress. I think that hearing is sort of indefinitely postponed. But are you doing anything to sort of proactively ensure that you can sort of protect the people on your platform from government pressures around speech?
Yeah.
Wow. Taylor with the questions. Damn. She's really good with the questions.
The interesting thing is, as you talk about proactively do it, the biggest thing is you need to be ready to respond when there's a challenge, right? So we are, if that happens, again, it hasn't happened. I think people express a wide range of views. on the platform, and there hasn't been a big issue there. But we're ready if something does challenge.
Why do you think that you guys got dragged into that when it was like sort of following the Charlie Kirk shooting? There didn't seem to be any connection.
There's no connection. I think it's purely what I'll call is company association. They need some number of N people. If you did a cluster of companies that, end up having users that overlap, you had Reddit and Discord and Steam, and you say, tell me the fourth company. And you can't mention one of the big ones because you have that balance. You can't mention X or Facebook or YouTube. Then it's like, well, what's the fourth? So it's proximity. I don't think, to me, I'm not that worried about it because I think, he had no experience. We do not have this problem of radicalization on Twitch. It's public forum. We don't have these private groups. One way to think of it is, if you really view this from a honest and sincere perspective, these things are trying to get information. And to be honest, they probably don't know that much about Twitch, right? They're not Twitch users. So I feel really good that we have in terms of them trying to understand this landscape. They'll realize, oh, Twitch doesn't really fit with these things.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking about a group of lawmakers that probably don't know how to turn their computers on, so I don't know how familiar they are with Twitch. I mean, it seems like a lot of people in Congress are certainly familiar with figures like Hassan Piker, who was brought up at the mayoral debate for some God knows reason why. And I'm curious, like, when you look at top talent and also efforts to deplatform top talent, especially from not just from the government, but these really intense like pressure campaigns that come from sort of like other big voices online,
these are great questions.
people. How do you guys navigate that as a platform? What do you do to ensure that big creators can continue working on Twitch? Because we've seen other platforms cave to public pressure to deplatform their own creators.
Right. I think a big part of it is having a clear North Star. Like, you need to understand what your policy is and what you think is right, and then you need to be willing to consistently apply it. The reality is, in today's social media world, no matter what you do, there will be those people who want to attack you in some. So you can't make decisions to avoid any type of, backlash from some vocal group. No matter what decision you make, you're going to have that. So given that, you can't do it by trying to avoid or stand or whatever, right? You just have to say, okay, what do we think is right for our platform? And then just stick to your guns, and over time, that's going to make sure you can continue what you're doing. Because as you say, it's important for our creators to feel like we're going to consistently apply.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that is so well and good, and obviously I agree with you, but then it's really hard, and I empathize with executives going through this when you are in the midst of those campaigns and people are calling your advertisers, right? They're targeting these people like to really hold firm. And I'm curious, have you ever been able to navigate that, especially with Amazon as a sort of a parent?
Well, why don't you do something at all? Well, he's specifically saying here that they're not going to cave to hate campaigns and deplatforming people, which is a good thing. Because they were specifically referencing like Hassan there. You know what I mean? Does someone get deplatformed just because they have huge hate followings? I agree with what he's saying there.
Parent company as well.
Well, I mean, I think Amazon's been very supportive. Some of this is you just got to play the long game. That's one thing I do.
$970 million in cash.
And you just need to look for it and realize, nope, keep going, play the long game. This is the world we're doing now.
Yeah, but speaking of Amazon, Twitch started out, or was started a long time ago, right, as sort of build out Amazon gaming, it's sort of gone through like all these different iterations. And I think Twitch has had 4 years of declining service, struggling to make profit. How should creators feel about the future of Twitch? And, Amazon is have you ever worried, I guess, a bit concerned about the fact that Twitch is growing or that it's not really growing?
Whoa! I can't believe these questions. She basically just said your platform is flopping. Whoa, Taylor.
So I say the one part as you're saying that I would disagree with in terms of when you say struggling to make a profit. That ultimately the question is, do we have a sustainable business that works? Part of what we've been doing is looking really closely at how we run the business. Right? We used to have a different approach in terms of doing these contracts with creators that were expensive, and we made a number of
Oh my god, I used to have a contract with them. It was an accelerator program. They paid me like a couple $1,000 a month to stream. They don't do that anymore though. Wow, that was nice though.
Places, Korea, it's not something that really costs. And actually, I feel very good about our business, in terms of what I'll call is the sustainability. We don't talk about where we're at now in terms of profitability at this one point in time. Really, what we want to do is understand, does our business work? Look at the cost of content, cost of streaming, cost of running the service. We made we slimmed down our organization. So I feel actually extremely good about the health of business. We've been doing very well in terms of the health of business, continuing to ensure it's sustainable.
Average CEO talk.
With the broader dynamics after COVID. But it's interesting, and I don't have it right here, when I look at the curve of our usage, if you just ignore these peaks during COVID, you still see this pattern like this, right? If you drew a line.
Also, I mean, in his defense there, that is a fair point. I mean, you really can compare social
I fight
media,
like my kitty
viewership to COVID times because everyone was locked indoors with nothing to do. And compare streamers that were blowing up during COVID, compare their viewership now. People have lives. They have jobs. You know what I mean?
Fine from what was happening before COVID.
So you're
to
talking
where
about
we are
like
right now.
2020, basically. So 2020
Right.
was
If you look at 2016, if you're looking at her 2016, 17,
Still
18,
overall.
19, like, and then you look here, you see what's a line. It's just it happened to do this. Right. And I think that's because people had so much time, and then they, you know, they were still connected and slowly, you know, the Twitch just kind of slowly, you know, drifted out. But what we actually see, the interesting thing when you look at what I'll call the kind of cultural significance of Twitch, it's never been higher.
Yeah.
Right. And so too often, I think we get caught up in these one metrics, right? Especially the ones that third-party
Typical
services.
CEO talk here.
You know, third-party services don't see how much money our creators are making. It's not in our API. And by the way, third-party services.
We're correcting him because COVID still exists. One thing Taylor Lorenz is going to do is that.
They don't actually, they're actually estimating based upon, like, when we eliminate do-bots, third-party services detect that as viewership going down. It's like, no, viewership didn't go down. Our internal metrics were never.
Well, also, I disagree with him here because we're seeing a rise of people that just don't like lurk and watch but don't comment, not being counted as viewers, and we're seeing a huge rise of that. So I don't necessarily agree with his point there about like view botting and stuff like that, because we're seeing like actual viewers be discounted because they're not typing. Like that has been like a truly proven thing.
You know, dealing with these inboxes, it's just you were dealing with them. And now we eliminate them, so now you infer this, and it's like, no.
But I also do believe that big creators were view botting to some degree. I'm not denying that.
Don't have fewer people, creators' revenues are not come down. So it's a noisy signal when you look at that. But if you think from a cultural impact, it's never good.
I would agree with that. I recently wrote actually about this in the Hollywood Reporter about kind of like the impact of live. It seems like live is this like ascendant format. At the same time, we're entering this new era of social media though that is sort of like AI driven, and it seems like this era of mass broadcast social media is also sort of more like declining. Like people are not going to like posting publicly to everyone all the time as the private social platforms. But I'm curious how do you think about that cultural relevance and building that cultural relevance and maintaining that cultural relevance into the next like decade as we have the rise of all these new sort of like synthetic forms of media?
Well, you know, of course, you never know how these things evolve, and I think any business is prone to see the positives if they think through these futures.
Shout out to my lurkers, because I'm a lurker too. Shout out to the bitches that engage, but also shout out to the lurkers. I love you and I see you.
But I mean, I'm honest in anything. In terms of what makes us tick as human beings, we evolve to seek community. That's how we survive. And every part of our community is designed to connect with others. And there are these things that act that and give the impression of that. But an AI bot is not connecting with another person. It is. And so I forget that everything.
You know, I do agree with him. You know, we're in this like AI bubble right now, and like AI is everything to people. But I do believe that like at a certain stage, people are really gonna long for just community again, or at least I hope. I want the AI bubble to burst so fucking bad.
I'm not worried about AI bots taking over Twitch. If all I'm looking at is a photo, actually had a video, there's a photo on Instagram, that's actually not a real connection. It's a two-dimensional photograph, right? And so you have a two-dimensional photograph, that's maybe AI, you know, takes over a two-dimensional photograph. But I will say we are four-dimensional people, because obviously we live in three-dimensional space, but in fact all the emotion, everything else about who we are and how we think. And so I actually think that all those changes, it's almost like it's perfectly because more and more people are going to be yearning for some type of authenticity in their lives.
People yearn.
One thing that I've noticed a lot is Twitch is very male-oriented. It seems like there's all male creators. And I spend time in more female-oriented, I guess, live stream spaces, like the Like to Know It app, you know, has a live stream space, TikTok Shop is huge. How do you think about like cultivating that female creator viewership? And are you thinking live stream shopping is so popular and it is really popular, and especially with your lifestyle, women lifestyle influencers,
I have a question. How many of you bitches shop on these apps? How many of you bitches use TikTok Shop? I'm curious, I'm not shaming. I don't use it just because I don't use TikTok to shop, you know what I mean? Like, I'm using it to, like, play videos. I don't care how much they integrate it. Like, I'm getting, okay, overwhelmingly no. I don't think I've ever bought a single thing from TikTok Shop.
You know, I don't know the exact stats and but you can get them, but more and more in terms of viewer base, it's more and more women. Like, same thing in terms of streaming. You look like now in the up here, you get Emily and Emmy and Bonnie doing it together. There's just lots of women that are doing well in streaming. It is the fact that sometimes fewer hours live, gaming generates a lot of like right? And it's probably the case that many of these women streamers are really diversity. They're diversifying the tend to be variety streamers. One thing that I said to Aldi about our platform, we evolve from being entertaining gamers to entertainers that game. And so I think sometimes the metrics can be a little misleading because it is the fact that there is some that can be, you know,
I'm pretty sure my dad loves TikTok
still
Shop.
can generate a lot of hours watched. But if you look at the clips on Twitch, and I don't have this, suppose I was able to measure third-party clip viewership on Twitch. I think you would see a lot of third-party clip viewership of women streamers. We see that we have an effort bringing over lots of folks that have been building on other platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and a lot of women streamers there. I do think that as live streams evolve, interestingly, I think it's better suited for women than what you do. That kind of community connection.
That's all well and good if he's saying that, you know, it's like optimized for like women streamers and stuff. But if you're going to do events where you bring them to it, I think you have a responsibility to protect them to the fullest, specifically them, because they're the ones dealing with the craziest of crazy.
Is a role that often women have played in our society, right? And when you think of other, other shows, other things, I think live streaming fits well for that.
Well, the women, I mean, the content creator industry.
Was he talking about entertaining?
Well, is female dominated
Yes.
and was built by women and continues.
And
Oh, sorry, social media being woman dominated. I was wondering what he was trying to say.
In other words, this kind of desire for community is something that is very.
Thank God Taylor steered him in the right way there.
Fits very naturally.
Yeah.
So I see as we continue to evolve kind of more broadly,
Yeah.
I see women playing a bigger and bigger role. You bring up shopping. It's something we're always keeping an eye on. Obviously, it's really big in China.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon has a live shopping.
Yes, which a lot of
experience.
female influencers are on.
Yeah.
And have found huge success.
Yeah. So that's something where how do we bring them over to Twitch? So it's something that yes, we're thinking through and keeping an eye on. It is a different space, but I do think there's
For the love of God,
What
I
do you
hope they
think
don't.
the
I
future
just
of live
want
streaming is
I just want a fucking social media where I'm not having to buy
gonna
something.
look like in 5 years or even 10 years down the line.
I think it's this idea, if you look at where we've been, in general, live streaming have been dominated by people who are first and foremost streamers. I think that is in part because of the origins. When live streaming started, of course, gaming, every of the competitors started out as general live streaming apps. I was at YouTube when we started YouTube Live. It was a general live streaming app. It really became gaming.
Shout out to women.
Facebook Live was a general live streaming. It became gaming. Twitch was Justin TV. It became gaming. The world has gone full circle, interestingly, from where all the apps started. But it's still the case that most of the people who they're first and foremost streamers. I think the change you're seeing now is more and more people using live streaming as a secondary conduit of engaging the audience community or whatever. So if you go through 5 to 10 years, I think you just have more and more people that they may not be streaming 20 hours a week or 30 hours a week, but they're like, yeah, no, I need to stream 3 hours a week. If you take musicians, like musicians used to have this, that write an album, that tour, that disappear for 2 years, and then come back. That's not the world we live in, right? They need to stay connected to their community. But more and more, I think, look, if you have a fan base, like engage authentically with them. You don't have to just play music. Do something you love, right?
Don't just play music. Wait, why am I low-key being called out? Hey, we do topics, if you're watching on Twitch, we do topics and then we play a song or two. We give you a little bit of both. What happens if I just want to DJ in between?
So I think you'll see more, and we see that right now when you see, the stud buds with WNBA.
Love the stud buds.
Yeah, like
obsessed with that.
I think that is the poster child. Think of more and more these folks that are doing it when it works for them.
Wiki,
But
yeah.
they don't have to do it all the time. And so if I say with 5 to 10 years, it's like everyone that's an entertainer, athlete, musician, influencer.
So streaming just becomes another content format, almost like short form is a content format. I agree with you on that, actually. And I think that people have been predicting that switch to happen, and I don't think
I don't want him jading her conversation. I'm going to go somewhere else.